Hi, Joinaires. Here we are. We're still at the Powell Bunker, and this is our yard. This is behind me. A it's a I've got it on the tip of my tongue. It's a red bud.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is.
I see. I
It is.
told you it was there. It's
Good.
a red bud tree, and it's budding pink right now. Kind of, but it's very pretty, isn't it?
Hmm.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. I mean, even if you look closely at every little petal that has little stems coming out of it and different shades, it's beautiful. Okay, enough of that. Well, welcome. This is lesson 11 in our series. And let me just share with you while you're here something before we get into our stick. What do they call that?
Our-
Anyway, our, our terrible jokes. But last week we covered God, the creator of animals and living creatures and so on. And so this week it would normally be in creation at the end of day 6 when God created man. But
Right.
I'm not going to do that.
You're changing
I,
things?
well, I'm not changing what God did.
Oh, okay.
I'm just
Whew.
I'm continuing with great detail. I'm going to give 10 examples, specific examples of creation and some detail that is just amazing. I'm going to be using the two books that you've seen me read a lot. It's the first one is Inspired Evidence. I'm covering your face. I shouldn't do that. That's not how it's done in TV land. Okay, Inspired Evidence. Yeah, very good. And it's by Julie Von Vett and Bruce Malone. And then the other book is the same authors, and it's Have You Considered Evidence Beyond a Reasonable Doubt? And they are both wonderful books. And if you want to blame somebody for me doing this lesson instead of going on, do you want to blame somebody? We can blame Gloria Wilfong, who's in our class,
Oh.
because she's the one that gave me these books and got me started. They are just amazing, and each day on these books is a different date, so you use it as a devotional to see God's creation. So, any case, that's what I'm doing.
Good.
I'm
Sounds
glad
fun.
you said good. Anyway, so I just want to tell you that. But so therefore, based on that, I have 4 more animal jokes.
Okay. Woohoo.
Well, I admit last week wasn't the greatest, but we'll try to do better.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So why are fish so good at watching their weight? Why are fish so good at watching their weight?
They have scales.
Oh, you got that. Very good. Yes. Did you get that? That was fast.
Oh.
They have scales, and so they watch your weight. Yeah, okay. Don't explain it, right? Okay. I got 2 cow jokes. I don't know why we have fun with cows. But anyway, what do you call a cow that eats your grass? What do you call a cow that eats your grass? Class?
He's a lawn mower.
You are so good today. That's it.
That's right.
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
He's a lawn mower.
Lawn mower. Yeah.
Well, but you got it.
I got it.
So what does that mean? You just said that was dumb.
I'm not going to say
Okay.
anything.
Okay. So, all right. Next one.
Okay.
How do you count cows?
Don't have that one.
Come on, 3 for 3. Let's go. How do you count cows?
One moo at a time. I don't know. I don't know.
No, that's
Okay, what?
okay. With a calculator.
Oh, calculator.
A calculator. That's a good one. Was that
Okay,
good?
All right, that's cute.
Was that good?
That was cute.
Okay, so
Calculator.
our final joke. It wouldn't be fair if I talked about animals and didn't include cats, right?
Your favorite.
My favorite, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the joke.
Okay.
What do you do if your cat swallows your pencil?
I don't know.
Do you know, class? What do you do if your cat swallows your pencil? Use a pen.
Yeah,
That was good, huh?
just leave the cat alone.
Okay,
He'll
we'll
be
leave the
fine.
cat alone.
He'll be fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, all right.
Yeah.
There we go. Well, I'm going to let you go.
Okay.
Oh, well, no. You know what?
What?
Can I keep you for another minute? Just for another minute, okay?
Okay.
Okay, because the first animal I was going to talk about was the elephant.
Okay.
And we had experiences with an elephant, didn't we?
We did.
A couple times, actually. But
Yes.
where did we have experience with elephants?
In Thailand.
In Thailand, when we went last year to Thailand and Vietnam. And that was a interesting trip. We had a wonderful time seeing things, but it was also sad because of the darkness of their belief in Buddha. It just, we get that some other time. But anyway, but we did see elephants.
Yeah.
And I think I have seen you had more fun during that time than any, I mean, you just had a great time, right?
Yes, that was fun. Yes.
Okay, so we got to feed, touch them, and
bathe them
Bathe
in
them
the river.
in the river, yeah.
Yeah.
And so we just got in the river with them. They laid down for us, and it was just amazing.
And they bathed us.
Yes, they did.
Yeah,
especially you.
Yes, they squirted us.
Yes, especially you.
Yes, yeah.
And you were just.
It was a riot.
Yeah, it was a riot. You were just laughing. It was so much fun.
It was fun.
And it was just fun being with him. I've never, we were up close with him. And before we did that, we kind of, or was it? No, it was before we did that. They were with us, and we kind of gave them hugs right at their trunk and able to touch them and feed them and everything. So that was quite an experience. And so what I wanted to tell you about was about their trunk.
Okay.
Because it's really interesting. Just this little detail. Let me ask you this question first. The trunk alone has so many independently controlled muscles. Okay, humans have 639 independently controlled muscles. How many independently controlled muscles do you think elephants have in their trunk alone?
No idea.
Take a guess. We have 639 independently controlled muscles. Did you know that, class? That's
in the whole body.
Yes.
So in an elephant's trunk.
Well,
because
20. 100,000.
No way.
Yeah. That's what okay.
Wow.
100,000 independently controlled muscles, the trunk alone.
Wow.
That is amazing. And,
wow.
When we saw the elephant, it could pick up stuff on the ground, and it used it, too, to touch us and to smell us.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
But they can, with its trunk, and these are facts, with its trunk, an elephant can breathe, it can rub its itchy eye, it can pick up 300 pounds of a load alone with its trunk. It can snatch a penny off the floor. It can locate nearby friends or food, like they did with us, and they can grab tasty leaves 23 feet up. They can knock down a tree with its trunk. They tear food and they put it in their trunk, and then they can also, so many things. They can, we know, use it like a hose to squirt people and themselves. They also use it to throw dirt on them to keep cover them with sun. So that's about an elephant. I mean, there are so many other things, but the elephant's multi-purpose trunk is so complicated. Only God could do that. Only God could do that. So that was just one of 10. I'm going to give you 9 more. But I'm going to let you go, since we had an elephant trunk
experience.
experience.
All right.
All right. All
Have
right.
fun.
See you later. Bye, sweetie.
Bye.
Okay, so did you know all that? It's just amazing. And let me tell you the reason we're doing this. God made all the animals and creatures to get ready for us. And I think he had the most fun making them because of the variety. And of course, there's flowers, and you could say he had the most fun doing that, or different birds, or whatever. But I think in creating creatures, he just had the most fun because there are so many kind of strange creatures and fun creatures. But this is how we get to know God. Remember, our title is Really Knowing God. And we're studying right now at the very beginning. In order to really get to know God, we're studying God's creation at the very beginning, because that is one of the best ways. What is the other way? Of course, it's the Holy Word of God that we use to teach from and to learn about God. But knowing creation is God's way of showing himself to us. Remember, Romans 1:19-20, it says this, because what may be known of God is manifest in them, for God has shown it to them. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes are clearly seen. His invisible attributes are clearly seen from the creation, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that others are without an excuse. So in creation, we see his eternal power and Godhead and his invisible attributes. And that's why we are spending, this is at lesson 11, but 10 of our 11 lessons so far on God's creation. And then consider the variety before we get to specifics. The variety, there are at least 800,000 different kinds of insects. And boy, those are fun sometimes, but God has a purpose for them. 30,000 kinds of fish, 9,000 kinds of birds, and 6,000 kinds of reptiles, 3,000 kinds of amphibians, and 5,000 kinds of mammals. God's creation is 100,000-fold, 200,000-fold. It's just amazing, and we need to see God's invisible attributes and his eternal power and his Godhead through that. Okay, so we just did the elephant. Next, let's just talk about the beaver. And I have the two books. This is in this one, in the August 19 edition. It says, the beaver is an amazing engineer in the process of making dams. And of course you knew that, but they are amazing. And did you know the beaver has special valves in his ears and nose so that when the beaver dives below the water, his valves automatically close so no water can enter? See, God designed that. Automatically closes when they go underwater. Okay, God has also designed built-in goggles that flip over the eyes for seeing clearly underwater. See, if they didn't have it, they didn't have either of those things, they couldn't do what they do. The beaver has specifically designed self-sharpening front teeth so they can chew down all those trees and heavy bushes and big things. If they weren't self-sharpening teeth, they couldn't do. See, I don't know about you, but I could not bite down and chew down a tree with my teeth. But God has designed the beaver to do that. And during the winter, he retrieves his stored food underwater but when he opens his mouth, what happens? Does water float in? Well, that's a good question. I have your answer. No, God has put two specifically designed folds of skin, each on either side of the mouth, and they meet behind the front teeth and they seal off the rest of the mouth when it opens its mouth underwater. Did you know that about beavers? I didn't. Of course, their large paddle shaped tail is used as a rudder when they're floating, and then when the beaver is swimming with a big branch in his mouth, the tail compensates for the uneven drag from the branch, that would normally drag him down, but he can float along with that heavy branch in front because of the shape of his tail, and it's used as a rudder and drag compensation. The rear feet are large and webbed like duck feet. You kind of probably figured that to help it swim, giving the beaver the force needed to transport large loads. Also, the beaver is kept waterproof by natural oils from two oil glands and two layers of fur. See, God put in the oil glands to cover the fur, and it has two layers of fur to keep it warm under the water. Also, finally, the large lungs and liver has extra large lungs and liver, and it allows the storage for more air and oxygenated blood while he is underwater. All of the beaver's features, and I just gave you a few, must be present and fully functional from the beginning to survive its semi-aquatic life. This didn't evolve over time. See, the evolutionists, their answer is, well, if you had enough millions of years, then these things would evolve. There is no evidence to show that anything like that evolves over millions of years. It's just, duh. How could it evolve all these specific glands and the double layer of fur and the paddle tail and the self-sharpening teeth? I mean, it just, God is amazing, and that's the beaver. Okay, so which comes first, the chicken or the egg? I never asked you that question. We know that the chicken comes first because God created the creatures as they were. He didn't create them as babies, okay, or in this case, eggs. Let me tell you about the egg. Oh, I was going to bring one out, and I didn't do that, but get one out of your refrigerator if you want to. But God has designed the chicken egg to be a perfect nursery. Did you know that? Inside the egg, the nutritional yolk provides food for the developing chick. The egg white is also a food source and acts as a cushion, absorbing any bumps when the egg is churned. The egg also has a very strong shell for the protection it needs during that time that the chick is growing. In fact, architects have copied the egg shape in building their dorms, such as in the United States Capitol building, the dormers. Now, imagine an egg without a shell. Well, imagine an egg without a shell. Well, the egg would be squished during incubation period, and the shell. I mean, you got to have a shell for the chicken, right? The shell, though, is not solid. Did you know that? The shell is not solid, but it's porous, allowing the chick to breathe. Had you ever thought about that? How does the chick breathe in the incubation period? Well, the shell is porous, allowing oxygen. And a typical egg has 10,000 tiny pores in it. 10,000 tiny pores in the egg. If there were too many pores, then the eggshell would be too brittle and the egg would break too easily. If there were too few pores, the chick would not get enough air and would die within the shell. My goodness, God is amazing, isn't he? Evolution is saying that the number of pores happened by accident and chance. Oh, really? Then what happened to the eggs that didn't have the pores, well, the chicks would have died. uh, God designed the exact number of pores for the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide in order for the chick to develop and hatch. God did it. God created it. And then on day 19 of a chick's development, it is too large to receive enough oxygen through the pores. It's time to break out. But how? When the eggshell is so strong. Miraculously, the chick has been developing just the right escape equipment. It's developed an egg tooth. The egg tooth is a ridge on the chick's bill used to pierce, listen to this, used to pierce through a membrane within the cell, and it's hiding a 6-hour supply of remaining air within the egg. Now, does the chick now relax since it's received a new supply of air? No. If it did, the air would run out and the chick would die. He uses those 6 critical hours to pick through the shell and grasp its first breath of outside oxygen. How did the chick know when to do that and how to do that and all that? Well, God designed it. And yes, the egg is a perfect nursery designed by God for the developing chick, providing food, protection, and air for him. When we see a design like the egg and the instincts of a chick about to hatch, we know there must be a designer, and that designer was God. It didn't develop over years because what happened to them when it was developing? Evolutionists, they don't use their minds very well. Okay, well, number 4, we need to move along, but these are so many great examples. Now this is in the book here, which is Have You Considered Evidence Beyond a Reasonable Doubt by Julie Von Vett and Bruce Malone, like I said earlier, and the January 24th date. And it tells us this: how does a camel survive a harsh, hot, dry climate? The camel's lump. Now, you always thought the camel's hump provided water, right? Well, no. The camel's hump is like a fatty backpack, not a hollow water storage reservoir. This fat is actually food stored for later use. When food is not available, nourishment is provided by the stored fat in the hump. When nourishment is taken out of the hump and not replenished over a long period of time, the hump actually shrinks and then kind of flops over. When food becomes more plentiful, the hump swells to become a fatty backpack again. Isn't that amazing? Most mammals distribute fat all over their bodies, including humans. Anybody identify with that? All right. Well, too bad, but the camels got it down. He designs the store energy for future use just in that hump without becoming overheated. And that is also a protection for the camel. In addition, the design of the camel's hump protects the vital organs below from the heat of the sun beating down on the top side of the camel. Dromedary camels thrive in extremely hot, dry climates because of this ingenious fat storage system that God provided. Some questions. How would a camel know it needed to store the fat in one place and not all over his body? Don't we wish we could do that? How would it get all the fat cells together in one place in the hump? Dromedary camels are wonderfully designed to live in hot, dry deserts, and their hump is just one of many parts which testify to the genius of their creator. Can you hear the bees in this tree? I can hear them. They're going all over these petals, and that's another animal or insect we're going to talk about. But let's talk about this one. And this was also in the Have You Considered book in the May 18th time, and it talks about the cuttlefish. You ever heard about the cuttlefish? Well, the oceans, as we have told you before, the oceans are full of over 30,000 types of fish and amazing creatures, but none are masters of disguise like the cuttlefish. This creature has been coined the king of camouflage. It can distort its body into 40 different body shapes, mimicking everything from a starfish to a squid. It can change its skin texture to mimic its background, like coral background, kelp, or rocks, whatever it's there, displaying a dizzying array of motions from the swaying seaweed, so it can act like a seaweed, to swimming fish. Amazing. It can change colors across the spectrum from red to blue to yellow and flash zebra-like patterns across its body and many more. And all these colors, textures, shapes, and patterns can be changed within seconds. One scientist studying the cuttlefish was amazed as he watched each cuttlefish transform into a tailor-made camouflage pattern. There were two identical cuttlefish, and they both settled on the ocean floor. He watched them settle. And one instantly took on the coloration and texture of sand and disappeared into the background. You couldn't see it because it took on that color and texture. But the other one floated down into a background that was only 10 feet away where algae covered the ocean bottom. And it took the coloration of and texture of algae. Each of these two cuttlefish tailor-made its camouflage pattern to fit the ocean floor within seconds. Now, how are they able to do this when they cannot even see their skin? In fact, scientists believe cuttlefish are even colorblind, only seeing the color green. I don't know how they figured that out, but that's what they say. The scientist was right in calling these cuttlefish, though, tailor-made, because they were tailor-made by our tailor, God, our magnificent God, our creator of all these animals and insects and fish and mammals. Amazing, isn't it? Okay, so let's talk about the bee. I mentioned the bee. I don't know if you've seen any behind me. This is also in the Have You Considered the November 2. A bee has such a small brain that you would need a magnifying glass to see it. Okay, just trust me on that. The brain, though, is made up of 1 million neurons, and that's a tiny fraction of the human brain, of course. And it allows this insect to fly, to navigate, and pass complex information to other bees. Have you ever seen any shows on bees? Yeah, you could look it up over the internet. I'm sure YouTube or whatever has that. But they actually go back into the hive, and by their wiggling and direction, they are in touching other bees. They are communicating where the food is to go. Well, researchers wanted to see if they could have complex information and pass that on to bees. So the Princeton University researchers, bottom line is they found bees stunningly intelligent. These researchers wanted to see if bees could find their source of food if it moved increasingly further away. So the researchers moved their prime food source 150 feet away from the hive. The bees found the food in less than 1 minute. Next, they moved the food source another 150 feet away in the same direction. Again, the bees took less than a minute to find the food source. They did this 2 more times, moving it precisely 150 feet each time until it was 600 feet away. Each time, the bees rapidly located the food, but then the astounding happened. When the researchers moved the food the 5th time to a location 750 feet from the hive, they found the bees were already there anticipating the 150 feet movement of the food. The bees saw the pattern, calculated the next move somehow, and anticipated the action of the researchers and beat them to the new location. Evolutionists believe intelligence evolved by accident and chance over millions or billions of years. Well, the ability of bees to learn quickly actually shows the hand of the Creator, not by accident, because they wouldn't exist if they hadn't developed this. God provided that into bees to be able to do that, and you can only see their brain if you use a microscope, but it has over, again, 1 million neurons. You know, the brain, I heard this the other day, that the brain is, well, when you think of the solar system and all the stars and all the way out there, and you know, trying to check it out and find out what's out there, and the amazing thing that God put these things all in the right movement and so on, that the brain is actually more complicated and more unknown by researchers and scientists than all of that we're facing out there. The brain is amazing. Okay, number 7, prairie dogs. Okay, by the way, is a prairie dog a dog? No, it's not. What is it? Well, it's from the rodent family. Okay, but as you know, the prairie dog, they live in underground tunnels and chambers that create entire towns, housing hundreds of prairie dogs on the plains of North America. If you've ever seen a special on prairie dogs, I mean, and they pop up all over. So, but their underground tunnels contain multiple rooms, including bedrooms, nurseries, and bathrooms. These burrows even include a listening room close to the entrance, so that when the prairie dog wants to go up, they listen in this listening room first to see if there's any danger outside. Now, one would think, now think about this, one would think the air in these tunnels would be very stale. Wouldn't one? I mean, obviously, think about that. Okay, but listen to this. Each home is nicely ventilated underneath the tunnel, and it has at least 2 openings for each home. Prairie dogs surround these 2 holes with piles of dirt, but always make one mound taller than the other. Why do they do that? Well, when a breeze blows across the tops of these mounds, a pressure differential occurs, causing air to be aspirated up, creating a partial vacuum in the tunnels and thereby drawing fresh air into the lower opening. These prairie dogs have engineered a passive ventilation system that uses what scientists call the Bernoulli principle. But God created these animals with the instinct to build one mound higher than the other and create this natural airflow and draft into the tunnels. In essence, during the summer, the prairie dog town is air conditioned. When the above ground temperature exceeds 100 degrees Fahrenheit, the burrow temperature 1 foot below is a comfortable 55 degrees Fahrenheit. And during the winter, the snow covers the chimneys, okay, so that not allowing the cold air to enter the tunnels. How does evolution explain this engineering ability? Well, they can't. But God gave the prairie dog the engineering instinct so they could survive extreme weather conditions and be safe on the great northern Great Plains. Wow. How does a prairie dog know this? God put it in them. Okay, number 8. The earthworm. Tim, the earthworm, what do you want to talk about that for? Well, this is in the May 15th edition of Also Have You Considered? But as we know, earthworms help plants by plowing, aerating, and fertilizing the soil. In fact, the martins have, at one time, they had a earthworm farm, and they sold the things from earthworms that you could put in your to make your soil very good. Okay, and I don't know if they still do that, but you can ask them. But earthworms dig burrows that help channel water and air throughout the soil and fertilize the soil. They drag the plant matter, such as old leaves and grass, down into their burrows, which they eat along with huge amounts of soil. They eat the soil. If you've ever split open an earthworm, you know there's a lot of soil in there. But it's been estimated that 90% of the fallen leaves in an orchard are ultimately dragged underneath by earthworms. The food is indigested and the remains cast onto the surface of the ground in small balls. And these worm castings, and that's what the Martins sold, are high in nitrogen that it is vital for plant growth. An acre of land, and we live on like 2.5 acres that God has given us, but an acre of land can contain as many as 3 million earthworms that are aerating and fertilizing the soil. Therefore, a home that sits on a 3-acre lot has more worms on that plot of land than the population of New York City. Whoa. Okay. And that's estimated at 8.4 million people. That's a lot of earthworms, let me tell you. So it's been estimated also that every 300 to 400 years, every particle of soil on the top 16 inches of Earth surface has passed through the earthworm's gut. How does evolution explain these tireless tillers? Did some earthworm just decide to start eating dirt one day in order to recycle plant material and tons of dirt and thereby provide nitrogen needed for plants? Hardly. God, the grand designer, knew that for us to exist on earth, we needed plants. And God created these little creatures to plow, aerate, and fertilize the soil. So now I hope that you appreciate the worms in your lawn or in your planter area, right? God is amazing. He's created everything for our benefit. Okay, number 9. And I realize this is a little long, but let's just talk about birds and butterflies for a minute. In the May 23 article, it said the bristle-thighed curlew, C-U-R-L-E-W, is an amazing bird. When the Alaskan-born chicks are just 5 weeks old, the parents abandon them and migrate to the South Pacific. For the next few weeks, the chicks go on a feeding frenzy, fattening themselves up for that same 5,000-mile journey. But the young birds, these chicks, are on their own to find the tiny Fiji Islands in the vast Pacific Ocean where they go. Yet they travel nonstop without a guide and arrive with pinpoint accuracy to the same mudslides and sandy beaches where their parents have flown. There's no parent going with them. They were born, stayed 5 weeks old, they were abandoned, and yet they fly and navigate the 5,000-mile trip. And they can't land on the ocean, so it's just straight 5,000-mile trip. So how do you explain the curlew's ability to navigate untaught to the opposite hemisphere some 5,000 miles across the Pacific Ocean? Flying nonstop and landing with pinpoint accuracy at their winter home. Well, evolution implies that all this happened by accident and chance. What are the odds? Evolutionists can't explain anything. Navigation over vast distances does not happen by accident and chance. No, the Creator, our God, created this in their ability, and when there's in their DNA, in their code, and when there is a code. There must be a code maker, and that code maker is our Creator, God. Well, on butterflies, the July 25th in the Inspired Evidence, it says each fall more than 100 million monarch butterflies migrate from all over North America to 12 small groves of fir trees in a 60 by 70 mile area on the mountain range of west of Mexico City. And they do this without having made the trip before. Okay? 100 million monarch butterflies make this trip. So let's follow their life cycle, shall we? This is amazing. I know this is long, but pay attention if you can. One calendar year. First, the monarchs leave Mexico in March, arriving in North America to meet and lay eggs. These eggs hatch and grow into butterflies, lay eggs, and die all within about a month. Whoa. Then subsequent generations keep moving north, meeting each other, laying eggs, and dying. So several generations as they're moving north. Okay. Then in August and September, the great-great-grandchildren of the original butterflies, and all the butterflies have died, okay, but they just keep making babies as they move their way north. So the great-great-grandchildren of the original butterflies, which left Mexico, are born. This generation must make the migration back to Mexico, a journey of up to 3,000 miles. The monarchs that spend the winter in Mexico live for about 8 months, while the others live only 1 to 2 months. The entire round-trip migration of monarchs takes place over a 3 to 5 generation of these butterflies. So how did they know where to go if somebody wasn't leading them? Well, evolution, again, says all this happened by chance. Just if you had millions and millions of years, they just throw those millions of years and just somehow it happened. Oh my gosh, how could that be? There are too many steps. God set up this from the beginning to show his great power. God has bound the information in the genetic code of each butterfly so that each knows what stage of the migration cycle to fulfill. This information is passed on to each generation. This shows a design by our Creator God, our God. And finally, the most amazing, of course, is the caterpillar to butterfly and the metamorphosis that is. And that's in the July 26 of this Inspired Evidence book. Okay. Far more, and this is the last one, far more incredible than its migration is a monarch's metamorphosis. Everything about this creature is unexplained by evolution. I have some questions for you. How does a caterpillar make a chrysalis? Okay, so a caterpillar, you've all seen caterpillars on the ground. They go up and they hang themselves underneath something. Well, how does that caterpillar know to do that and make a chrysalis and dissolve itself in the jelly and then eat that jelly and come out a butterfly? How could a creature with 6 simple eyes, the caterpillar, which only sees in black and white, create 2 new eyes, each made up of 6,000 individual lenses with the ability to see in color? How could that happen in that cocoon, chrysalis? How could a creature, now remember, the caterpillar has a chewing mouth that eats only leaves, develop a long tongue that sucks out only nectar, which a butterfly does? How could a creature with 16 legs, the caterpillar, become jelly and produce a completely different shaped legs and wings? How could this have happened by chance when any flaw along the way would have produced death? Well, you see, God, the master engineer, designed this incredible system whereby the caterpillar seals itself into a chrysalis. dissolves itself into jelly, and then eventually emerges as a butterfly. As you see the monarch's migration, be amazed with its 3,000-mile flight, but be equally amazed at how it's transformed into a butterfly. Okay, well, that's enough. I've shared just 10 of God's living creatures out of over 800,000 insects and over 50,000 different types of birds, fish, reptiles, amphibians, and mammals. Each one is different, and each one is special before God. I could have gone on and on with each having its own unique qualities. We could be here for days and days, especially describing dogs and how they have the instinct to be man's best friend, having the ability to sense and empathize and welcome you all the time, no matter what you did before, and have this forgiveness and be man's best friend. And then, of course, how could God create cats who have people as their servants and who feed them and take care of them? Well, seriously, class, our God is amazing and wonderful. Did you know that the first reference of God in Genesis 1:1 is called Elohim? In the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and the earth. Elohim means supreme God, strong one. In fact, Elohim is used 2,570 times in Scripture. He is the one who we worship. He is the creator. He is the one that is strong and is the supreme God. He created all the amazing varieties. He created the earth. He created the planets. He created the mountains. He created the valleys. He created the rivers. He created the oceans. He created all the thousands of different types of plants and the uniqueness of each flower, the trees and all of the creatures. And at the end, after he did this, at this point, before he created man, he said, and God said it was good, because God is getting ready to create man. He created all of this that we've talked about before for man, and now the next step is creating man. So the application, just one more minute, Romans 1:19-20. Whoop, sorry about that. I hit the computer here. It says this, because what may be known of God, again, is manifest in them. So what may be known of God is intuitively manifest in them. For God has shown it to them. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead. So the people are without an excuse. Class, your assignment is this. Psalm 145:5. Psalm 145:5 says this, I will meditate on your wonderful works. That is your assignment. And you know what? I have been getting things from people, and I wish I had time to read those right now, but input of how you all are going out and looking at flowers, specifically, carefully, looking at God's creation, the different types of greens that we see, the blue sky, the clouds, the bees and the wonderful animals or whatever it is, and just doing what the psalm says, meditating on the wonderful works of God. So that's it. Worship your Creator. Anticipate heaven, by the way, where I believe God's creation is going to be so amazing. If God created this on the earth and sin entered, and we've got a lot of fallen things going on, we've got a lot of weeds, and we've got, those kinds of things. But if God created this earth and the amazing beauty. Think of what heaven's going to be like, class. God, we're going to see God's creation in all its majesty, even more so in its purity. Oh my God, we love you. You're our creator. Let's pray. God, we worship you. We see your Godhead, your invisible qualities in everything that you've made. Lord, I can hear the birds singing off in the distance. I can hear bees behind me. I can see the flowers and all that you've made. God, we love you and we worship you and we adore you and we thank you, and we can't wait to be with you in heaven where you are preparing a home for us. As you said, that we can have peace and not fear, because you are going to prepare a home for us and you are going to come back and receive us as your own. Lord, we worship you, and we just help us to worship you more and more through your creation. And we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. God bless you, class. I pray for you guys all the time, and I love to see you at church. If you see me at church, come over and say hi. And I've got Tootsie Rolls now, and again, and we appreciate you guys so much, and can't wait to be with you and see you, and we love you. Have a great day, and go out in God's nature and worshiping our Creator. All right, bye-bye, class.